Yeah, 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 yeah.
Don't just make your fucking beats.
I'm about my game. Live by the rules, we don't play the same. That's on my grave, that's on my name. I'm saying, I'm about my paper, about my game. I'm about my game.
What is up, everybody? This is another episode of College Football Now with your host, Thomas Christopher. I know this month has been very sporadic, I guess I'll say, for the show. Obviously, we weren't here last week. Christmas obligations and holiday obligations made it so we weren't really at full strength there. Won't really be at full strength once again today. So it's going to be very interesting. Going to keep it a short show. We do have a unexpected blizzard outside. I do want to make sure that I'm back and ready to go. And I'm even getting some live issues. It says we were live 5 seconds ago. Maybe we're live now. Maybe we're not. Maybe I'm disconnecting. Who knows? So I do apologize for the sporadic nature. One was a birthday event, one was a holiday event, but I do want to keep everything very nice. I hope everyone is having a happy holidays as we get ready for New Year's Eve. That comes in tomorrow. If you're listening on the 30th, which is when this airs live today, and if you're listening on our Spotify and radio networks, it is already New Year's. So I want to be the first to wish you guys a happy New Year's. If you're listening to this show on YouTube, make sure you click that like and subscribe button. It's completely free to do so, and it helps the site. If you leave a comment, this is a live show, so we will get back to you as soon as we can. If you're live and we do the comment live, I'll get right back to you instantly. If you do and wait and you watch the show after the live feed has ended and you leave a comment, I'll make sure to get back to you guys within 24 to 48 hours as well. If you're watching on Facebook, do the same thing. Make sure you're liking the Facebook page. Make sure you're subscribing, and make sure you're liking the video as well. It just does nothing but help and keeps things circulating. And if you're watching on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call that, you can also click that like button. Completely free to do so. You can also click that retweet button, even though it's not Twitter anymore. I don't know why they didn't get rid of that, right? So you can click that retweet button. And like I said, it's a live show. So if you comment on any one of those platforms, I will get them live, and I will get back to you as quickly as I can. Like I said, a short show. Shout out Daniel Tatorio, and one of our normal guests. He won't be on today. He's actually already in Texas, in Arlington, for the second round of the college football playoff against as Miami Hurricanes take on the Ohio State Buckeyes. We'll get into that a little bit later. So I do want to give a shout out to Dan Tatorio, a good friend of the show. Hope he's safe. Hope he's resting well, and hope he enjoys what's going to be a busy weekend for him. We also won't have a number of guests. Like I said, it's a short show, but we will have a secret guest coming up. He's not secret. He's a regular guy. But since we did miss that time, I do want to give a shout out to everybody who's been watching. This past week, we were actually at the first round of the college football playoffs between the Oregon Ducks and the James Madison Dukes. Halftime. By halftime, it was 31-6. It was not a great game. We were expecting a blowout, especially in the press box. Great weather, great fans. Everybody there, the atmosphere was fantastic. But shout out to James Madison. Shout out to Bob Chesney, the head coach there. Well, now at UCLA. They have fight in them, man. And you know what's interesting? Alonzo Barnett passed for a while. I mean, James Madison was the first team this year to put up 500 yards of offense, and they scored the most points on the Ducks all season long. A lot of people want to say that's garbage time. That's not necessarily true. They did bench some guys here and there. They did not bench the starters for what it's worth. Meanwhile, the defensive guys, yes, they did bench them at some point in the game, but some of those guys were still scoring. On the 99-yard play drive, the starters were in. That's all I'm saying. Plus, I mean, the conversation between why people don't believe in the G5 as opposed to the P4, it's starting not to make much sense anymore, right? Because we have all these bowl games that are happening, and we're starting to see some of these, iffy teams beat the better units. I mean, if we're going to be honest, Old Dominion beat USF. I know that's without both starting quarterbacks and the head coach for USF, but Old Dominion Sun Belt team. USF was an upper echelon American team. That was a great win. We saw Delaware get a win on the same day at the 68 Ventures Bowl. That was incredible as well. NC State beat Memphis down, but that was a little bit expected. And then you have Washington State beat Utah State 34-21 in the Potato Bowl. We saw Toledo hang in tough against Louisville in the Boca Bowl. Ohio. I mean, I don't know if anybody watched that Ohio UNLV game, but are we sure we're not going to call a little bit of point shaving or anything on the Rebels players there? I mean, I'm just saying some of those games, some of the plays in that game were very, I'll say bizarre. Bizarre is probably the best word. I mean, I tune in and I'm watching the quarterback miss a completely wide open player. And this is stuff that Calandria doesn't do. And then he hit the portal afterwards, too. That's a whole nother weird thing. We'll talk about the portal once we get Brandyn on. Breaking news, he's the guest. Once we get Brandyn Pokrass on, we'll talk a little bit about the portal and how some of these guys who are entering it probably shouldn't. Somewhat of 40, I think it's 45% of the players that'll hit the portal that are in the FBS right now who are hitting the portal will not play another game in the FBS. That's a real stat. It's not made up. It's between 40 and 50% based on the position group. Not great odds. So we will get down to that a little bit later, but I do want to still continue to talk about these bowl games and the players. And I mean, Minnesota, speaking of, a team that should have, I mean, Minnesota won 20-17 against New Mexico in the Rape Bowl. That's a Big Ten team, and that's a true, I guess we'll call him true Mountain West team in New Mexico. Shout out to Coach Eck. What he's doing in New Mexico is a fantastic thing. But that's another one where you're looking a little bit and you're like, that's not great. I mean, Northwestern did beat Central Michigan, but I mean, to be honest, that was a drubbing. I can't even defend that one. But then we have the next day at the Military Bowl, East Carolina, without their starting quarterback, without their starting running back, without multiple players, without their defensive coordinator. They ended up beating Pitt, who was playing basically everybody. Desmond Reed wasn't in the game because he was hurt. But East Carolina beat Pitt 23-7, and it was mostly one-sided in that contest. Then we have Penn State that didn't have anybody either defeat Clemson 22-10. Clemson did play their guys in that game too. Then we have Army beating UConn. Army drudged UConn. I mean, Joe Fagnano wasn't playing for the Huskies in that game, but I mean, it's Army, man, and everyone wants to discredit some of these academy schools. Then they go on and put a drubbing like that on. And I know that UConn did only have Skylar Belfort and Cam Edwards for the first half, but the game was one-sided well before that. Georgia Tech almost upset BYU in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. By the way, who doesn't love the Pop-Tarts Bowl? I mean, if we're being honest, that is one of the best bowl games of December, to be honest. I would love to cover that event. Just seeing the guy, and by the way, the strawberry Pop-Tart avoided being what's the word? I can't even talk right now. He avoided being sacrificed for the greater good of the football team. So that was very interesting. I always really like that stuff. I think it's a nice little twist that they add to the games. And then we have North Texas getting an impressive, I mean, that was a shootout game. North Texas and San Diego State 49-47. That was pretty good. We have Houston who beat LSU. That's another one, 38-35. Virginia beat Missouri 13-7. The point being, there's a lot more parity to these games than people really want to let on. That's all I'm saying, man. I mean, that's all I'm saying. And everyone wants to act like they don't even call, what's actually crazy? They don't even call the P4 or the autonomy conferences. They don't even call them the P4 anymore. They're going P2. And that's a real thing. They're going P2 for the SEC and the Big Ten. And I mean, if we're being honest, the bottom half of those conferences are still awful. Like, nobody can convince me Purdue's a good football team right now. They weren't even a good football team last year. They had a surprising win, I think, in week 0 or week 1 this year, where there's like, oh, well, maybe Purdue's different. No, they finished the season. They were awful this year. And the same kind of go like the Kentuckys of the world. Obviously, we're not talking about schools known for their football per se, but it's just weird to me how we're going from autonomy to non-autonomy. We go from the P4, and now they're trying to turn it into the P2. Now, the top echelon of those schools, sure, we can say that those are good programs, and we can say that those are going to be the top of the top. But when you're talking about the as a whole at large for a playoff format, there's no way you can leave out. I mean, you can't do the ACC dirty the way they did. I know they're trying to drag the ACC in no matter what next year, but I'm talking about the group of five specifically. I mean, look how many times American teams had their programs ranked in the top 25 this season. You know what I'm saying? And getting votes too at that. And not even just the American. The Mountain West had great teams too. People were really hyping up Boise forever, and then USF beat Boise, and then things started getting a little weird. But then you have San Diego State, who looked really good. New Mexico, that we've talked about, who looked really good. It's not fair to. I mean, James Madison made the playoff. Tulane made the playoff. Memphis looked good at times this year as well. It's just not really fair to some of these teams to just be consistently overlooked because of the conference that they play in, because of the money that gets distributed to these guys. I know I'm getting a little off topic now, so I do apologize, because I did want to talk about the rest of these bowl games. We did actually have a couple bowl games today, where Louisiana Tech beat Coastal Carolina 23-14. Coastal was up in that game too, so that's very interesting to see. I mean, I know Coastal lost some personnel and players as well, but that's the problem. I mean, this is actually very interesting, because we are in the fourth quarter of the Music City Bowl, and Illinois is up with the ball 24-21. They're currently at Tennessee's 32-yard line, and it's 3rd and 5, and the Fighting Illini are making this thing a fight. I mean, they're up 24-21 right now. I wouldn't have expected that. I'm just saying, SEC school is getting beat by one of the, by Big Ten. That's all I'm saying. So I don't hate that. Just the point is to get this long diatribe and very messy. I'm going to call it messy monologue, because this has not gone the way I've wanted it to. To complete is that the group of five, the non-autonomous schools, group of six, whatever anybody likes to call them, the lower tier FBS programs, they deserve their fair shake at the table. They deserve to get more credit than what they're given, because we've seen upsets multiple times. I mean, we're seeing upsets now in these bowl games. We're seeing teams fight, and we've seen upsets throughout the season. I mean, classic examples, the NIU beat Notre Dame last year. Notre Dame found themselves in the championship. Okay, I get that some fans don't want to have the any given Saturday, any given Sunday aspect of sports, but that's why people play sports, right? If that's the case, there wouldn't be a massive pool of kids playing high school football, or football even before that. There wouldn't be a massive amount of kids playing college football, whether it's in JUCO. I was a JUCO guy. Whether it's in D3, whether it's in D2, on D1, you don't get all these athletes if there isn't any hope of that competitive nature. The any given Sunday aspect, being an underdog is fantastic. I mean, especially if you're somebody who grew up playing on a bad team, or grew up playing for even a good team, and you just never got your shot. There's a chip on your shoulder. People overlook you. That's what makes sports so relatable to so many people, because it's those aspects go even further beyond sports than just, nobody, I'm on a bad team, I just want to win. That's not always the case. A lot of guys have to prove themselves. I mean, how many times now do we see let's look at this. How many times have we seen a P4 guy go down to the G4, succeed, and then go back up to the P4? We've seen it. I mean, we're watching Cam Cook do it right now. I mean, the running back Cam Cook was that a P4? Was that a G3 or G5 this year? And he hit the transfer portal again. Jacksonville State, played for TCU. Didn't do anything really at TCU. Nothing against him. I mean, we saw him. Point being, he didn't do much. 4-star. This is a 4-star recruit, by the way. 4-star recruit, went to TCU. Wasn't getting utilized, transfers to Jacksonville State, has a fantastic season with Jacksonville State, rushed for over 1,000 yards. Really good. Really good. 16 touchdowns. Then he hits the transfer portal. He had to prove himself. And I'm sure he didn't probably want to offend Jacksonville State or anything like that. But that's just what I'm talking about. Some of these guys have to prove themselves because that's the point of why everybody should get a seat at the table, a slice of the pizza, a slice of the pie, a slice of the cake, whatever you want to say it is, right? Personally, and shout out to Dan Tortora because he's actually the one who convinced me of this for a new playoff format, is moving it to 24 teams, having all 10 conferences have their conference champion in it. And then you go with the seeding based on the win loss. I mean, the seeding doesn't have to be by conference. If you want to do it like that, whatever, you can. But the seeding doesn't really matter as much to me. I'd be perfectly fine if some of the autonomy conference schools get a bye week or host the game as opposed to a conference champion in a non-autonomous conference school, because at least they're getting a fair shake. At least they're getting a shake. At least they're getting a seat. Because I think if you're a conference champion, college football is one of the only sports in the world, and even high school. I mean, high school sports a little bit different, but college football is the only national sport in the world where the champions don't play each other. I mean, if we're being honest, we're talking I think it's 5 guaranteed conference champions, right? 5 guaranteed conference champions. Right now we're at 12 teams. That leaves 7 bids. Everybody wants more teams. Everyone thinks somebody's not getting a fair shake, right? You go to 24. You bring in 10 conference champions. You still have 14 at-large bids. And to be honest, it would more or less, it would be the top 25 of the AP polls or the coaches polls. It would basically be the same thing, minus a team or a couple teams. But then that goes down. It makes that much more fighting. Because as much as they say, upsets don't really happen at the top level against the top teams, there's still hiccups that could happen against other champions. There's a reason why some of these guys are other champions. And a lot of those, what bothers me to no end is a lot of those non-autonomy teams and players in those teams, they either came from the P4 and are getting a shot themselves, or they're about to hit the transfer portal and then go to the P4 and get picked up by the P4. So if we're talking playoffs and we're talking not being able to have things be quote unquote fair, or everybody gets a same shot, or being a one-sided, a lot of people talk about the James Madden Oregon game, how one-sided it was. And JMU did fight back, and they did make it a game. Now Tulane got beat, but Tulane was driving too. A lot of people don't recognize that Tulane was also driving against almost. They just weren't able to put things together. There's a couple that's football though. That's sports in general. Certain things, one thing could really change the outcome. Not even change the outcome. It can change the momentum of a game. It can change everything about it. So if we're talking playoff teams and we want people to get a seat at the table, there should be, and like I said, I'm going to give Dan Tortora a shout on this. There should be 24 teams. There should have all 10 conference championship teams in a playoff. It doesn't make sense that we talk about college football as this national thing, but none of the champions at a national level are playing each other. And then we have 14 at-large bids, which would more or less be an AP-ish type poll. It would make the AP poll mean more, in my opinion, because a lot of those teams would be finding themselves in those polls. And it would just make it so that the teams get a fair seat. And this isn't just like, oh, Thomas, you just really want the G5 to do better than that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is it helps the sport as a whole too. It increases parity too, to be honest, which that may be a reason why we don't see it happen for some of these autonomy conference schools. But because if you see one of these G5, group of 5, group of 6, whatever you want to call it, non-autonomy teams in a championship game on national TV in a standalone game, that helps college football as a whole. That helps that program. It allows them to be able to get revenue money from the game itself. It allows them to be at increased exposure, which makes other players want to be able to play. Hey, look, if I go to this school, I still have a chance. I still have a chance to show myself on a national level. Like we talked about earlier, there's an underdog story for a lot of players, even on good teams. We just mentioned Cam Cook at TCU, players on a good team. If he didn't get his shot, so what did he do? He transferred to Jacksonville State, got his shot, 1,000-yard running back. Now he's in the portal and likely to be with an autonomy school again because of his efforts. So it gives guys that instead of having to go through all of those steps to get some type of potential notoriety, adding those conference champions to the and adding that to the playoff format, increasing the group that is in that playoff format, it allows those multiple extra steps to kind of stop. It allows people to get a fair shake, allows universities to bring more money into the school, to the conferences, and to college football as a whole. And this is if people do their job, because if the marketing departments at the schools, if the schools themselves are able to market things the right way, and like I said, they don't even have to host the games if it's not into the seating. Just getting the fair shake in and of itself allows the programs and the universities to do so much leading up to those games to build up their program and to build it afterwards, because there's still sports going on even after this, obviously. There's so much at the table revenue wise, and I think that not even just capping the playoff system at 12 or 16, but capping the amount of non-autonomous schools that can get themselves into the college football playoff. I think that's a very short-sighted way, and it's just greed based on a very few select amount of people. Whereas if you open it up, the slices continue to get bigger. I mean, football is becoming a sport that we're seeing next year. They're having a game in Brazil. I mean, I'm just saying, I know quite a few South Americans. They don't know much about college football, but they know enough that a game is going to Brazil next year. And if that doesn't just speak to the progress of the sport of American football in general, I don't know what else really will. So that's why I know this has been a long diatribe about how the G5, Group of 5 non-autonomy schools deserve their seat, and seeing how some of the stuff has shaken up through bowl season and throughout the season. But I hope at the end of the day, this point was kind of made. Didn't realize it was a 20-minute rant, so I apologize for that. But sometimes that happens. I mean, like I said, it's a short show. We got an unexpected blizzard today, so I'm trying to get in and out of here, doing it best I can, and to give you guys some knowledge at the same time. So I do hope that if you disagree, please let me know why. Why do you think the G5 shouldn't find themselves in a larger playoff format? Tell me why you think the playoff should be what it is, or what your changes are to it. Like I said, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment. This is the live show, so I will get to you if you do the comments while we're live. If we do it while we're off air, I will get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. If you're on Facebook, make sure you like the Facebook page or leave a comment as well. It doesn't matter if you're on YouTube, Facebook, or X/Twitter. If you leave a comment, we do actually get all of those live, and we do get back to you. I appreciate the people who have reached out so far throughout the show. Make sure you share it, right? Clicks one button to send it out. You can share it on Facebook. I think you can still share stuff from YouTube. I'm an old man. I'm a boomer. I don't know. And hey, you can always retweet stuff on X/Twitter. Still don't know why they call it retweet if you take the name and you change the name and you don't want to be called Twitter, but you want to be called X, which is, that's a different rabbit hole. But if you do that, it helps the show a lot as well, and I do truly appreciate it. We have a big week coming up this upcoming week, as I'll actually be flying down to Florida to be at the Hula Bowl, which is a all-star event. A number of players right now, they're currently at 100 official accepted players. And I didn't even notice that I actually have my guy in the green room right there, who's actually going to be joining me for the Hula Bowl. You guys know him, you love him. It is Brandyn Pokrass. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. You're flying down quicker than I am. Are you ready to get back to the Florida grind?
Yeah, it's been cold up here. I will say that. It's I have a very specific view on the cold, right? When it's the holiday season, I feel like the cold weather is a perfect complement. The minute January 1st strikes, I don't feel like being in it anymore. So basically missing that deadline by a day, flying back down the 2nd. But yeah, I'm excited to get rolling with all the All-Star Game stuff. Feels like there's a lot going on outside of that too. The official start of the transfer portal is January 2nd. But as we sit here right now, according to On3, they have 1,438 players listed as entered or expect to enter the portal already. and you add in D2 and FCS, and we're probably approaching 3,400 at this point.
Yeah, it's crazy because I was looking at a stat. I was actually talking about this earlier in the show lightly. That like depending on the position group, it's 40 to 50% of those guys won't even play FBS football again, and that's a dangerous thing. I think some of these kids need to get better representation, but it's hard to find that representation when you're a kid trying to navigate childhood, college, and sporting. I mean, we've seen it firsthand. I mean, honestly, right? So it's unfortunate. I mean, are there what big names are sticking out to you in the transfer portal right now?
I mean, where do we even begin? What big names? I think the better question to pose here is what names are surprising me that haven't entered yet, right?
Yeah.
Because it feels like anyone that's been even like slightly rumored to enter the transfer portal is really in it. I will say the biggest surprise I've had so far is Cam Coleman of Auburn. I really didn't think that was going to happen, and that was shortly followed by Deuce Knight today. So that 1-2 punch, if I were to say anything, that would probably be the biggest surprise to me. But it's kind of to your point, right? I'm really interested when the levee's going to break, right? I'm very interested to see when that next domino falls. When I say the next domino, I'm not saying like, something necessarily major. What I more so mean is, when are players going to realize, hey, operating in this way, look where it's gotten this amount of guys. Like I'm talking like guys actually looking at the statistics and being like, all right, operating on just the I produce and leave right away method isn't working. I think we're eventually going to get to a point with this process, because where we're at right now is just not sustainable. It's not sustainable for the sport. It's not sustainable for the players. It's not sustainable for the schools. Right. I think eventually you're going to get to a point where guys are realizing that 2 years of production, or maybe even 3 years of production, is worth more than the one and the quick payday, to where not only are you laying a foundation to potentially get paid more at your current place, but if a school sees 3 years of production, they're probably going to be more willing to offer you the money than the guy that, produces 1 year and then leaves. I mean, we could run through plenty of examples for, teams that I covered specifically this past year, right? There's guys that, for like, if you just want to use a name or two, right? Look at Byron Brown. Byron Brown earned whatever money he gets in the transfer portal this year.
Yeah.
You cannot say anything negative about what Byron Brown has done. He graduated from USF. He did everything he was supposed to do at this school, and now he's going to go cash in and get a big payday somewhere. That's how it should be, right? You produce at the one school for multiple years, and then you go cash in somewhere. And I'm not faulting guys to go get their money. Trust me, you and I are both player first. We've always been player first. It's never going to change for me. But, there are about what? If there's 3,300 so far in the portal, there's probably like, what, 200 plus at each position, something like that. Is the math breaks out something like that, maybe like 250, right? So you take a guy like, whether it be a guy from FIU like an Alex Perry, or a guy from FAU like Assad Wasim, and by the way, these are guys that I think are going to go to a higher level of football and produce. I think they are going to be good. But these are guys, the guys at every level of football are thinking this. Produce, see what I got in the portal, go make more money, and rise up the ranks. And obviously it's worked for a lot of guys. But a lot of guys get left in the shuffle. There's a lot of guys that go to try to make that jump, and then all of a sudden they're either stuck on the bench for a year and have to try to do it again. Now you're adding another school to your list of how many you've been at, or you're not getting picked up in general. Yeah. And it's not usually the guys that have posted numbers that's happening to. It's the backups, the freshman that wants to try to get a fresh start somewhere, the redshirt sophomore that, is eager to just get on the field. Like, there's so many different ways to look at this where it's really fascinating and it's very interesting how people are attacking it. But I truly think that whether it's through the method of a contract that's multiple years, or whether it's through, the common practice being staying at a school for multiple years, or whether it's finally the NCAA trying to institute some form of regulation, that's not going to happen. Something needs to truly change with this process, because to really close it out with how it began, it's just not sustainable, right?
Right.
Is it sustainable every single year for a coach to have a roster and then look and, my entire offensive line is now in the transfer portal, plus multiple weapons, or my entire receiver room is gone, or my entire secondary is gone? And I know people will likely jump and say, this is just a group of 5 problem. No, it is not. Look at the Auburn football roster.
Yeah.
This is a problem affecting everybody. And whether it starts from the top or it starts from the bottom, there's going to be a groundswell eventually where things have to change. It may even start with the players, because players are getting promised NIL deals when they enter the portal, and all of a sudden they're not getting them when they get to that school. Don't leave out that part either, because that might be the thing that gets this thing churning once again. There's just so many different ways where the levee can break and things get completely changed again. It can't keep going on like this. It just simply can't.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because that's what I was waiting to say. Perfect example is that happened at UTSA, and Trailer was talking about that, where the department offered this kid a certain amount of NIL, and he was expecting it and didn't get it, and he chose to sit out and miss stuff. And if I'm the kid, I don't personally blame. When we're seeing other schools start to add into their contracts certain stuff to kind of limit, if X happens, not only do you lose the NIL deal, but you have to pay what you made. And I think that's insane. That's an insane thing to even think about. And now it goes to the representation that these kids have is going to be more important than ever. And with what they have now, we're just going to see kids get completely screwed over. And we're going to see, I don't want to say like the broke athlete, because you know how they say like NFL players, not even just NFL players, but after those guys stop playing ball, they end up, being in financial problems. But we're going to start seeing that happen to college kids who are much less equipped to handle life at the moment than a superstar athlete is. We're going to see some of these kids getting that NIL, not knowing that in that contract, if something happens or they transfer or something happens, that they not only lose the money, but have to pay parts of it back. That's going to be a serious problem. And I don't know how that's going to change things going forward, but the landscape's in a disaster. And I think we're seeing that with how many kids are in the transfer portal, right?
And I think the biggest thing too is there's a lot of really good agents out there. Like, there are guys that are being honest with their clients and guys that are basically doing the right thing and making sure their guys are in the best spots. We both know what agencies those are, right? But the problem with the NCAA right now is that they do not require agents to be certified. Anybody, literally you and I, could show up randomly 2 weeks from now or a few days from now and be like, hey, we're NIL agents. We can get you great deals. And we have no idea what I'm doing or what we're doing. And just, now you're an NIL agent. How? And you think kids aren't going to get screwed that way? And you think schools aren't going to get screwed that way? Or you think it's just, and it could go on the other side too. A lot of these schools have zero experience working with player contracts. Coach contracts and player contracts are two different worlds, right? There's so many things going on with this that it makes finding solutions and this is how I like to phrase it. It's not about fixing a problem, because you know how sometimes you fix a problem with a Band-Aid. A Band-Aid is not a permanent solution. The harder problem is finding solutions and finding ways to actually make the sport concretely better.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happens yet.
I don't either, man. That's the sad part, is because it's still the Wild West, and I know there are schools that are trying to, like I said, put in some very interesting language in some of these contracts now, and start trying to get the NCAA to force some of these people to be certified. But the way the litigation's going and everything's going to a slow halt. I mean, what is it? Iowa State has how many kids on the actual football roster right now? Is like less than 30. I know it's less than 30. I mean, it got to a point where politics. We have congressmen and people in the government retweeting stuff about it, and I'm just like, what is happening to college football? Because this has never been this way. I mean, on one hand, I think the NIL is great, and the other hand, it's a complete, disaster class of a show. And I don't know if they can find that balance. Do you think they end up finding that balance, or do you think how we're seeing a lot of these groups come out and oh my gosh, I'm gonna blank on the word, and that's gonna really bug the heck out of me.
Pickering?
Yeah, and just
what
are your thoughts?
It comes back to the same thing for me every single time. This was completely avoidable. There could have been great guardrails and rules and everything put into place, but because the NCAA is the NCAA and is incompetent in the way that organization is, they did nothing. And once this arrived at their doorstep, like they knew it would, that's why we're in the wild, wild west. Because there was a refusal to ever make rules and regulations, and now they're scrambling to fix things because the entire sport has been completely thrown on its head. And now every single offseason. Also, by the way, what was the purpose of getting rid of the spring portal? Please tell me. What?
That's a great question.
I know the coaches pushed for it. I know it was bad for you have. Once again, I'm going to keep circling around the number. You have over 3,000 kids in the transfer portal right now.
Yeah.
That is not including every school's high school recruiting class. Yeah. There are a bunch of kids unsigned right now. Yep. What is going I cannot physically wrap my head around the sheer number of player movement that is going to occur. Like, let's take a few schools, for example, right? Just from my realm. FAU is going to have to legitimately replace half its wide receiver room now because of Wasim's departure and depth guys. FIU is going to have a completely different offensive line in 2026.
Yeah.
And USF obviously lost their head coach, much talked about, much discussed. That school is having their own retooling. That school's having their own retooling. Let's call it what it is. They're going to have to retool and completely fix up that roster with how many guys have left, which is unfortunately reality at any level of college football. USF has to figure out quarterback, multiple contributors on defense and wide receiver. And that's every offseason. Look at every single school. Look at you want to know what a great example is? A team we just covered, Thomas. James Madison.
Yeah.
James Madison. Every single offensive starter is gone. All 11. 1 through 11.
That's insane.
Once again, it is, we can talk about everyone wants to laugh at the group of 5 until it's time to take players in the portal. We can talk about, I think James Madison's going to be fine. We can talk about every single little branch that comes off from this. This is not sustainable to do every single year for any school. It's not sustainable for the top of the top in the SEC because we've seen it happen at Alabama. We're seeing it happen at Auburn. It's not sustainable at the group of 6, group of 5 level, whatever you want to call it, whether it's a James Madison this year, whether it's a Southern Miss last year, right? It's just not. It's just frankly not something that can continue year in and year out. And I want to stress this point too, and I said it a few minutes ago. This is going to end up hurting the players too. Obviously, the schools are being hurt. obviously the programs themselves are being hurt. This is something that's going to hurt the players too. And
Yeah.
that is the thing that worries me the most, because you're playing with your future. Like, this is you. I am all for getting paid. Please go get your money, but you got to be smart about it. You have to be smart about it.
Yeah, because if you're not, I mean, some of these
You're
guys
done.
are never going to see. Yeah, they might not ever see a field again.
Thomas, you mentioned FBS. Your football career might be done because you're, they're saying that your coach always looking for your replacement. You're making it easy. You're making it easy. You don't find a spot. There's no guarantee your old coach is taking you back. There's no guarantee that a lower program's taking you. So you're going to take a year off football now and have nowhere to go to school.
Right.
You're done. It's over.
Yeah. I mean, shoot, man. I'm talking to players right now who are basically going through that literal thing to the point where they'll play out of JUCO in terms of trying to get back on track. So that's definitely real. And I think the other aspect too is now we're seeing private equity start to get involved in some of this stuff. I mean, Utah had a $500 million deal with Otro Capital. Absolutely insane. The first collegiate athletic department to accept that private equity money officially per CNBC. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on private equity? How much time do you have?
we got about 15 minutes.
We can go longer. I got time. But no, to not crack a joke about it, the answer is just bad. Like, look at what private equity has done to great companies across the country, whether they're big or small. Right? What private equity does is forces you to only focus on the capital, start eliminating the things that actually make your product good, and basically at the end of the day, rip it down to the studs and sell it off to the highest bidder. Yeah. How the hell is that going to work with college football? I don't want to find out.
No, it's not even happening like small. It's not even happening to schools that it's like Utah doing it. Utah was a squad that like blew me out of the way because I'm just like, okay, yes, you're in the Big 12. You're a well-known program, but you're not like a Michigan of the world. No offense to them, but you're also not like an FAU of the world. No offense to them. You're just stuck in the middle. And when you're signing a contract with a private equity firm for that much money for NIL stuff, okay, yes, you juiced up your athletic department. That's fantastic.
What are the ramifications it has down the road?
Exactly.
And it is essentially, I want to credit Deontay Leo on Twitter. Awesome follow. Basically phrases they let the devil in the door. Yeah. Shout out to Sinners. Great movie, but they let the devil in the door. And now we're gonna see what happens, because the next one on the horizon, and this is going to be the more interesting one, is the Big Ten. Yes. They put it off for now. That is the thing that could have the biggest ramifications across the entire sport of college football, because that might mean Michigan and a few other schools might be gone from the Big Ten if they don't agree.
Yeah, I've talked to you off air and stuff about the super leagues and stuff that they're trying to do, but I also talked about this briefly in the show. What are your thoughts now that they're changing? I mean, in the zeitgeist of things, they're now turning the P4 into the P2 with the SEC and the Big Ten, and they're just leaving out the Big 12 and the ACC completely now. I mean, when do we stop? I mean, genuinely, when do we stop, and when do we just start? Because I mean, I mentioned Purdue as an example. Do we really think Purdue is better than like every other team in college football?
I literally like this. Guys, did you not think this was coming? Did you not think this discourse was coming? It was never going to stop until it was those two conferences. Like I want you to imagine a world where the third best Big 10 or third best Big 12 team gets in over the fifth best at SEC or Big 10 team. You want to know what happens next? The Big 12 is litigated out of their playoff spots.
Yep.
Or the ACC. Right? And the ACC has its own problems. The Big 12 has its own problems. Yeah. Right. Every conference has its problems. It's just until those talking points get rectified, I think that it's very obvious what the next line of discussion is going to be. But I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Heading into this portal window, right? What's your lay of the land with, I guess, certain teams? Like I've given a lot of my thoughts of, where I think certain teams stand, right? I kind of touched on FIU, FAU, USF. I want you to kind of touch on like what you're seeing from your perspective with the transfer portal, because I feel like there's so many different ways to read this.
Yeah, it's been interesting because I've been looking and I've been poking around a little bit, and it seems like a lot of stuff, for whatever reason, is precipitated on, NIL. And it's kind of very, very unfortunate. There's talk that Sorsby now could be the next quarterback of your LSU Tigers. Just saying, which I think would be very interesting. But also, it's just, I think the connections that coaches used to be able to make with players has kind of gone the drain. I don't want to keep rehashing the NIL thing because we've already gone over that. But I think it's just very fascinating when we're seeing almost every major team's quarterback leave the program. And now we're in a situation where there's at least a dozen very, very good quarterbacks and nobody knows where they're going, whether or not they go back and return. That's one thing. But do we just see these flip-flopping? And I'm just like, some of it doesn't make sense to me. I think Auburn's in a very interesting place. I know Auburn fans weren't necessarily happy with Deuce Knight, the way he handled not being starter this year, whatever. But Auburn's a school, like, we're seeing some big autonomy conference schools get really knocked down a peg, I guess. And you called it a retooling. I think that's astute, but it's so interesting. I talked about Cam Cook earlier too, how he was at TCU, didn't do much, went to Jack State, did really well a year and wants to leave again. I think that it's getting to a point where we might start seeing a gap kind of increase, where certain schools in the non-autonomy conferences that are normally good, I think they'll be a little bit better than they were over their counterparts. And I think we'll see that in the autonomy conferences too, where there will be, Oregon's a good example where they had guy transfer in. I'm going to blank on the running back's name.
Mekhi Hughes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Great player. Didn't need him this year because they had guys.
Oh boy, did they not?
Jordan Davison was fantastic. I'm going to blank on the other kid's name. I apologize to him. But like two freshmen too.
And Whittington.
So I'm just, there's a lot of, I think that the autonomy schools might be a little top heavy at the top, but I think it's going to be both ways, where I think that the non-autonomy schools that are like the top, the cream of the crop of the non-autonomy, they're just going to be a little more top heavy than they were in previous years. And I think we're starting to see that, but I think that's been being done by design. But you're going to start getting me into conspiratorial mode. But I think we're going to see two very top heavy leagues. I hate that it's almost forced to like split them because they're both FBS, but I think we're going to see two different type of top heavy type of leagues in the G5 and G6 now in P4.
Yeah, I think that's very accurate. I think, kind of getting the sense that like having a top tier scouting departments can be paramount for every school, not just because we talked about the importance of it at, in FIU, for example, because Willie Simmons would talk frequently about the importance of playing scout, like the high school recruiting and playing their young guys, right? But with how much player movement there is every year, I feel like every school is going to have to be on top of their scouting and recruiting game and make sure that, hey, we're at least giving our team the baseline of this, so that even if we lose 10 or 15 players, we have guys coming in that are going to be able to contribute in at least a season, right? From a quarterback perspective, man, look, I'll put it like this. We talked off air about this. I'll say it here. I'm working on a transfer portal quarterback primer. I'd love to get it started, but every time the writing has been about to commence, a different big name has hit the portal. whether it's Deuce Night today or, if you really want to look at the rankings, and I have them pulled up, right?
It's insane.
Listen to these names: Levitt, Mestamaker, Sorsby, Byron Brown, Dylan Raiola, Josh Hoover, DJ Lagway, Rocco Beck, Kenny Minchie, Aiden Childs, Bo Tribula, Caden Hauser, Anthony Calandria, Colton Joseph, Aaron Philo, Bryce Baker, Jaden Craig, Dylan Longren, AJ Hill. That's only a sliver of the guys that have entered the transfer portal.
Right.
That is affecting every program, or not every, I'd say most programs across the country. Boy, oh boy, if you're an FAU and you have Caden Velkamp, you are feeling great right now. I will say that. If you are any team with a solid quarterback that hasn't left, you are feeling great right now, because everyone else is kind of most likely sitting there and like, how are we going to land multiple quarterbacks to fill out our quarterback room?
Right.
It is going to be insanity. And once again, there is no spring transfer portal. It all has to happen in a 2-week window. So
it's going to get insane.
It's just, once again, there's 500 different ways we can take these conversations. I wanted to hear your thoughts because I've shared plenty of mine. I think the long and the short of it is today is December 30th. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. We are in store for a wild transfer portal window. I think there's going to be a lot of movement. I think there could be more guys that enter. I think there's potentially guys that could exit the portal. You're going to have to just stay locked and loaded and follow along, because there's going to be so many things that happen. And I feel like I'm even selling that short.
Yeah, I'm still blown away that Kane Hauser left ECU, despite they reportedly were going to give him 1.4 mil, I think it was. If that number is true, that's insane. That's all I'm saying. Sometimes the grass isn't always greener, man. And ECU fans travel very well.
I will say this. That is the perfect point. Yeah. I think that is the thing people are going to learn very quickly. Yes, you may get paid more somewhere, but that doesn't always mean it's a better situation.
Right. And plus, if you look at the NFL, man, I would love to see the numbers, not just when a G5 player, group of 6 player gets drafted as opposed to P4, because a lot of times those P4 players used to be in the non-autonomy conference. So I would love to see like an actual number of when that happened, because I don't think it's too far off. And for kids who think it is, there's numerous amount of kids that will get drafted that go to a non-autonomy school. Chris Johnson for San Diego Tech, he's going to be a round one.
San Diego State.
San Diego Tech. Yeah, San Diego Tech. Jesus Christ. Pardon my language. San Diego State. I was thinking the Aztecs. I combined it. So, hey, there was a reason there. There's a reason there. But Chris Johnson, he's a day 1 or day 2 guy. And that's from a non-autonomy school. There's multiple of those guys. So you don't necessarily have to go to a P4 to get your money. Because once you get a shot in the NFL, how many times have we seen a guy get a shot and then really blow up? Brock Purdy went from seventh round pick. And now he's the starting quarterback of the 49ers. It's not all about where you start, it's where you finish. Just saying, guys. But before we get out of here, I know this is a short show. Like I said, I apologize. Blizzard, it's the day before New Year's, the day before the New Year's. We all want to get out of here, and you guys don't want to listen to us too long. But before we do get out of here, Brandyn, I just wanted to ask you. We got a lot of stuff coming up with the Hula Bowl, potentially the American, Senior Shrine Bowl. Just give everybody your thoughts on those, and because we're going to be actually at the Hula Bowl for next week. Next week's show is going to be Hula Bowl. We'll be at the Hula Bowl for next week's show. So just give your thoughts about everything we have coming up.
Yeah, I am ecstatic to not only be talking about transfer portal stuff, but also be diving headlong into NFL draft stuff, because yes, both of those are happening simultaneously. Smile. In all seriousness, I'm very excited for this. College All-Star games are my favorite. I had a blast covering Shrine and Senior last year. I'm really excited to get out to as many as I can this year. I really like the Hula Bowl roster. I think there's a lot of guys, specifically quarterback position, skill position, even in the trenches, that I think can play at the next level. And I'm very fascinated to see what they do in this type of environment, because that's the biggest thing, right? You have the baseline of the tape. There's guys that are going to impress me that I'm going to go back and watch a tape for the first time, or maybe the second or third time, because I see something I like. And there's guys that, might happen otherwise. I like going in and maybe I have my priors confirmed, or I see something I don't like and I need right. There's so many different ways to go about it, right? But I'm just excited to get this process kicked off, because the cool thing about draft stuff is that it's all subjective. No one's really right and no one's really wrong, unless you're rage baiting. You know who you are. So yeah, it's fun. And I love seeing all the different takes and all the different, players that stand out to different guys and sleepers and everyone having their guys. And I could go on and on, but yeah, I'm so excited for it. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I can't wait. And I guess before we get out, just let everyone know where they can find you on your social medias.
You can find me, as usual, at BPOC24 on Twitter, on Instagram, on Blue Sky. I'm at Brandyn Pokrass. I've been doing some day in the life stuff on my Instagram and TikTok. Yes, I finally started posting on TikTok. Welcome to the year 2025, 2026, Mr. Pokrass. But I am doing it. Those have been really fun. Expect more content like that over the next months, maybe even some draft stuff. I don't know. I'm kind of having fun with it and going by the seat of my pants, and whatever is posted on there, I hope you guys check it out. I hope you guys check everything out. And most of all, I hope you guys check out what we're doing with the league winners, because it's going to be a great year in 2026. And yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait either. I'll see you in a couple of days, my friend. Thanks for coming on.
Of course. Catch you later.
That is Brandyn Pokrass. You can find him on X/Twitter at BPOK24. And this is, like I said, this is a live show. If you guys are watching on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Completely free to do so. Show's ending. I know it's short. I do apologize. But there's a bad storm, and I do actually have to get out of here because I don't actually record this at my house. So I do want to get up out of here before it gets too bad. We did get an unexpected blizzard. I do want to give a shout out though to my friend Dan Tortora, who's in Arlington right now for the Cotton Bowl between Miami and Ohio State tomorrow. Big shout out to him. Make sure you guys are following the work he's doing at Call DT on X/Twitter. Shout out to Shane Burnett, Mackenzie Negley, who usually come on this show as well, Cody Henderson as well, and all the people at the League Winners. Make sure you're following us at League Winners CF on X/Twitter. You can find us at the League Winners on Instagram or YouTube. This is Thomas Christopher. You can find me at that name right there on X/Twitter, or you can find me. Yeah, just find me on the Instagram for the League Winners. I do appreciate everybody accepting my stumbling and bumbling throughout this conversation. I do really truly appreciate everybody's patience. And if you do have any live comments, please leave them below, or afterwards. I will make sure to get to you guys if you have any thoughts about what we talked about with the college football playoff, the group of 5, group of 6, P4, non-autonomy, autonomy, schools. Let us know. I do appreciate everybody, but I'm going to get on out of here. I'll see you in Florida next week. So until next time, it's Thomas Christopher. I'm out.